The following talk is about Minoxidil, which is one type of medication that's used for non-surgical hair restoration. In this talk, I'll be covering the history of Minoxidil, which is also called Rogaine. Rogaine is the brand name. I'll be going through the mechanism of action of Minoxidil, the different formulations of the medication, as well as its side effects. Make sure to watch till the end of the video where I'll cover a newer type of formulation, which is showing some promise in delivering results. I'd like to mention that this is part of our series on non-surgical hair restoration options, and with all medical therapies, I recommend being on at least 2 different types of medical therapies to optimize your hair restoration goals. And I also want to say that with all medical therapies, you have to continue to be on that medical therapy to see sustained beneficial effects of that medication or different procedures that might be done that are still in the realm of medical therapies. So let's start with the history of Minoxidil. Minoxidil was introduced in the early 1970s as a treatment for hypertension or high blood pressure. It's really rarely used today for that same purpose, but that's how people found out about its benefits for hair restoration. One of the side effects of the medication was hypertrichosis, which means increased amount of hair on different parts of the body. And people found that when you had different patients on oral Minoxidil, they were getting these situations where more hair was growing in other parts of their body, including hair on the head and the beard area. So this led to the development of a topical formulation of Minoxidil for the treatment of androgenic alopecia in men and then subsequently in women. And as you know, androgenic alopecia is the most common form of hair loss in men and women. So the 2% product was first marketed for hair regrowth in men in 1986 in the United States, and then the 5% product became available in 1993. So moving on to the mechanism of action of Minoxidil. So Minoxidil is actually what's called a prodrug, which is not the active form of the medication. It's then converted to its active form, which is called minoxidil sulfate, and that's done by an enzyme called sulfotransferase. That enzyme is expressed in the outer root sheath of hair follicles. The higher the enzyme activity in a person, the better the response to Minoxidil, and that's why not everyone responds as well as they'd like to Minoxidil. Minoxidil is a vasodilator that works by opening up potassium channels on smooth muscle as well, and that's how it works to lower blood pressure when it's given in a high enough dose in an oral formulation. It also has been shown to enhance hair growth and it reduces hair loss. Specifically, it prolongs the anagen phase of the growth cycle, which is the growth cycle responsible for improved growth of the actual hair. And there are actually some new tests that are assessing sulfotransferase enzyme activity in kind of plucked hair follicles to predict treatment response. So generally, low enzyme activity will mean that you have a limited response to Minoxidil, and then the opposite is also true. High enzyme activity means a better response to Minoxidil. And one interesting point is that salicylic acid, which is an aspirin precursor, actually inhibits that same enzyme expression in the liver, and that's why it really should be avoided if possible for optimal efficacy of Minoxidil. So let's go through the different formulations. We're going to start with the topical formulation. So it's one of only 2 US FDA approved drugs for the treatment of androgenic alopecia. It's also used off-label in other hair loss disorders, including alopecia areata, which is what I have, but usually not in universalis, which is the subset that I specifically have, but it's also used in beard and eyebrow enhancement, for example, as has been shown to work for those applications as well. It comes as either a solution or a foam product. The solution, which is the original sort of formulation for the topical Minoxidil, has what's called propylene glycol in it, which improves the delivery of the drug into the hair follicle, but it also causes local irritation. So the foam is easier to use because it's quicker to dry and it's more localized in its application. So it's kind of the more popular choice between those two. For men with androgenic alopecia, it's recommended that you do a twice daily application of either 1 ml of 5% minoxidil solution or half of a capful of 5% minoxidil foam. For women with female pattern hair loss, it's recommended twice daily application of 1 ml of 2% minoxidil solution, or once daily application of half a capful of the 5% minoxidil foam. And the reason for that is that you want to reduce the side effects of the medication. We'll go through the side effects later in the talk, but women are more susceptible to getting that additional hair growth in other parts, specifically of the face. So to reduce that side effect, you want to keep that foam application, especially at 5%, down to once a day. And what's interesting is that with the topical formulation, approximately 1.4% of the actual topical minoxidil is absorbed through the normal scalp. So most of the actual drug is not being absorbed through the scalp, and that is why other formulations exist and are still prescribed for hair restoration when it comes to minoxidil. And following 4 months of twice daily application, less than 40% of patients regrow hair. And that's something that is important to remember, and one of the reasons why it's not used as widely as it potentially could be, and that's because not everyone's a responder, and we talked about earlier why that might be, and that's because of that sulfotransferase activity and enzyme expression. Why do people stop using topical minoxidil? The main reasons are poor regrowth of hair, the fact that it's a twice daily application, undesirable hair texture, which can occur in some people, scalp irritation, especially with the solution, and a shedding period, which usually lasts for about 3 to 6 weeks. And because of these shortcomings, some opt for an oral formulation of minoxidil. So let's talk about that. So remember, the oral formulation of minoxidil is actually how we discovered its beneficial effects for hair restoration. It was used for blood pressure control, but for blood pressure control, the doses are much higher and are different from the doses used for hair loss type of conditions. The adverse effects that are seen with oral minoxidil are much higher and much more serious the higher the dose that's given. So the blood pressure doses for hypertension are on the order of 10 to 40 milligrams per dose, whereas for hair restoration, it's generally 5 milligrams or under. And so low-dose oral minoxidil has been shown to be safe and effective for hair growth. The doses are as low as, this is again per the literature, the doses are as low as 0.25 milligrams daily for women with female pattern hair loss, and that's been shown to be effective, and as low as 1 milligram for men. Though in men, based on various studies, the recommended dose is actually 2.5 milligrams to 5 milligrams for the oral daily dose. There's also, and this is what I was telling you guys in the beginning of the talk, there's also sublingual application of minoxidil, and that involves taking a pill, putting it under the tongue, and allowing it to dissolve. And there was a study in 2020 from Dr. Sinclair in Australia that was a retrospective review of 64 patients, men and women, and they had a 6-month follow-up period. The advantage of the sublingual administration is that it actually bypasses hepatic, which means liver metabolism, and therefore it increases the bioavailability of the drug, meaning there's more of it actually working in your body compared with the oral administration of the pill. And the doses used in his study were 0.45 milligrams daily. 20 of the 64 patients were actually increased to 0.9 milligrams daily. And in his study, he found that there were improvements based on a global assessment of the photographs, as well as hair shedding scales that were shown to also improve in the study. The side effects that he showed were mild hypertrichosis in 8 women. There was mild postural dizziness that occurred in 3 men and 2 women, and there was mild edema that occurred in 2 women. So overall, good safety profile to the sublingual formulation. And this definitely is very promising, but we need prospective studies, we need additional studies, and there was also a lack of statistics that I saw in that retrospective study. So basically, we need to study it much more before that could be recommended, but it's definitely a very interesting and novel approach, and it could end up being a very kind of beneficial way to administer minoxidil. So let's now go over the side effects of minoxidil, both with the topical applications as well as systemic use. As far as the topical side effects of minoxidil use. You have the contact dermatitis, and that is mostly from the solution formulation. You have headaches, which can occur, hypertrichosis, which we already covered, and that's been shown to be worse in women. 5% formulation of the topical solution is actually more likely to give you these side effects compared to the 2%. Which makes intuitive sense. As far as systemic side effects of minoxidil, which you can get from oral use or sublingual use, there are some serious side effects at the high doses, again, at doses that are given more for the blood pressure type of application rather than for hair restoration. And those systemic side effects include different types of fluid retention problems that can result in something called pericardial effusion, as well as a few other conditions, swelling of the legs, things of that nature. And as far as the termination of treatment, because a lot of people think that when you stop minoxidil, you just start to lose your hair right away. And many of my patients are worried that if they miss one dose, that all of a sudden everything will just, be lost, all the gains that they've made. And that's really not true. There's a progressive decline of hair that occurs over the course of about 12 to 24 weeks is what's been shown in the studies. It's not a kind of instant on-off switch. So it's okay to miss the occasional dose of minoxidil. You're not going to lose your hair right away from that. So let's summarize what we've talked about and what we've learned so far about minoxidil. I'll also give you an idea here of what I generally recommend when it comes to clinical practice and how you should administer minoxidil both for yourself and sometimes maybe going to your doctor for a prescription. So keep in mind that for the topical formulation, at least in the United States, you don't need a prescription, right? You can go to the drugstore and you find it on the shelf. So you start with topical minoxidil. Generally, the foam version is recommended. You can start with the 2%, but I would just recommend starting with the 5% if you're able to tolerate it. And I would recommend attempting it for at least 3 months to see what kind of benefit you might get from it as far as your hair growth. This includes not just the scalp, but it can include eyebrows and could include the beard as well. So if you're tolerating that and you're seeing some improvement, great, continue using that. If you're unable to tolerate the medication, the topical, like for example, if you get a headache that becomes persistent, or you get this hypertrichosis effect where you get extra hair on the face that you don't want, in the case of women, for example, or you don't see much of an impact with the topical formulation, you could then bump up to oral minoxidil. You need a prescription from your doctor for this, and you want to start with, again, low dosing, right? 5 milligrams or less, and it's really gender specific based on the studies. Women do well with lower doses of minoxidil oral, and then men do better with the doses of the 2.5 to 5 milligrams daily dose. So again, you have to talk to your doctor, see if it's okay with all the other medications that you take. I can tell you that in my practice, for women, I might start with a 1 milligram per day dose. For men, closer to a 2.5 milligram per day dose, and most people do extremely well and tolerate the pill well, and definitely, many people see some benefits with oral minoxidil. The sublingual formulation of minoxidil, I think, is still too experimental, and I wouldn't just jump to using that. I don't even know if you can easily obtain that, at least in the States here. So I think we still need to do more studies as a community before we can kind of safely say that that's a good option for people. And if you're on the systemic formulation, so like the oral minoxidil, you definitely have to be vigilant for some of the more systemic kind of blood pressure related side effects of minoxidil that I mentioned earlier. Fluid retention, any changes in your overall sort of condition need to be, those things have to be brought up with your doctor if you're on that type of pill. So that is pretty much all I have for you when it comes to minoxidil in 2021. As time goes on, I'm sure we'll get more information, and I'll be sure to share updates with you. We could do that every year if you guys would like. And we have a whole lot more planned for you as far as non-surgical hair restoration videos. I know, the community has been asking me about this. We put out a lot of hair transplant videos, but there are a lot of people who don't need or want a hair transplant, but a lot of people who benefit from these non-surgical modalities, and minoxidil is like a tried and true one, and it's one of the only FDA approved ones. So we have a lot of data to support its use. So hopefully you guys learned something. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and I'll see you again soon.